Hello, I am Reverend Stephen Longfellow Fisk, founder and executive producer of the Jerusalem Prayer Project, here in Los Angeles with my fellow co-hosts, welcoming you to our premiere webumentary, Peace Sunday 2020, We Carry the Dream.
Talofa, I am Laura Sa Pele Lapoia Ava, and I'm the CEO and board chair of Unity and Diversity World Council and Peace Sundays. I'm also the founder and president of One Global Family Foundation and Alliances. We are honored to sponsor and co-produce Peace Sunday 2020. Aloha.
And I am Robert Corsini, filmmaker and owner of Videocratic Media, producer of Peace Sunday 2020. This year's full-length program showcases 14 stories from a uniquely interfaith perspective that can also be screened as individual segments on our website, peacesundays.org.
Peace Sunday is traditionally an annual event taking place in Southern California, honoring the United Nations International Day of Peace, September 21st. It features interfaith and indigenous leaders, activists, artists, and performers, all addressing critical issues of our times that are impacting us locally and globally.
From Washington, D.C. to Standing Rock, Santa Onofre to Charlottesville, Los Angeles to Jerusalem, our stories include exclusive interviews and musical performances interspersed with excerpts from Martin Luther King Jr.'s prophetic I Have a Dream speech that frame the legacy of sacred activism with the challenges we face today.
We always begin our Peace Sunday program with ceremony and prayer offered by our Native American elders honoring this land, Turtle Island.
We'd like all of you to join us in opening our hearts and exploring our own hearts in bringing ourselves to peace, planetary peace and harmony with Mother Earth and all of creation.
May the sacred feminine speak and be heard. It is in the time of the White Buffalo prophecy now that the healing of our world will come through the womb of sacred women, all the sacred feminines. All we must stand together as the male energy and the female together. May this peace of the male and the female of the one love come together in a good way, in a good road, and bring peace in our earth with all elders, with all children, and all the many creations around us today that live and breathe. We send our blessings to our global family.
August 1963, I was 17 years old and had just graduated from the High School of Music and Art in New York City and was participating in civil rights marches and singing the folk songs and the songs of freedom of that era. I traveled to Washington, D.C. for the Great March for Jobs and Freedom, where Martin Luther King gave the I Have a Dream speech. Years later, with fellow songwriter Sophia Roberts, we wrote the song We Carry the Dream, commemorating Dr. King and that historic day. In 2018, the 55th anniversary of the Great March, we recorded and filmed this tribute to Dr. King, connecting the legacy of the American nonviolent movement with today's Black Lives Matter movement, which gave us the theme for this year's Peace Sunday.
Freedom Now movement, hear me. We are requesting all citizens to move into Washington, to go by plane, car, bus, any way that you can get there. Walk if necessary. We are pushing for jobs, housing, desegregated schools. This is an urgent request. Please join. Go to Washington.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slaves will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream. My poor little children.
One fine summer day, 1963, the great march for civil rights took on Washington, D.C. They marched for freedom, they marched for jobs, they marched for dignity. They marched for the conscience of a nation, for justice and equality. A 250,000 gathered there in Washington that day to hear the Reverend Dr. King lift his voice and say, I have a dream, and we witnessed history. Now it's up to all of us to carry the legacy. So we're singing, we carry the dream of the way this world could be. We carry the dream of justice and equality. When we gather together, we find strength and unity. Yeah, we carry the dream. All people shall be free. From the streets of Birmingham to that Nobel Prize he won, Reverend King let freedom ring, shines his light for everyone. Now people anywhere who've been denied their rights find vision, strength, and inspiration to carry on the fight. So we're saying, we carry the dream of the way this world could be. We carry the dream of justice and equality. When we gather together, we find strength and unity. Yeah, we carry the dream. All people shall be free. People united, you can't keep a baby from needing to be touched and loved. You can't keep the trees from reaching for the sky above, and you can't stop the river from rolling to the sea, and you can't keep the people from the hunger to be free. So we're singing, we carry the dream of the way this world could be. We carry the dream of justice and equality. When we gather together, we find strength and unity. Yeah, we carry the dream. All people shall be free. Shall be free. Shall be free. All people shall be free. We carry the dream. We carry the dream. We carry
will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Here's a look back at Peace Sunday's history that began in 1982, focusing on nuclear freeze and the socio-political as well as the spiritual struggles of the time, leading up to today's Peace Sunday 2020 production.
In 1982, during the height of the Cold War, as the Soviet Union and the United States engaged in the nuclear arms race and fears of nuclear holocaust plagued the planet, a mass movement for a nuclear freeze arose. In California, the culmination of the movement took place on June 6, 1982, at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. The event was called Peace Sunday. Performers included Stevie Wonder, Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, Stevie Nicks, Jackson Browne, Linda Ronstadt. Speakers included Muhammad Ali, Jesse Jackson, Jane Fonda, Dolores Huerta, Rabbi Leonard Bierman, the Reverend James Lawson. Peace Sunday combined humanitarian and planetary concerns with music and message, setting the stage for future global link-ups such as Live Aid and other mega concerts, raising funds for disaster relief and various causes. Peace Sunday was produced by the Year of Shalom Committee, a coalition of peace and justice and interfaith groups. In subsequent years, the Unity and Diversity Council, a Los Angeles interfaith group, has picked up where the Year of Shalom left off and has produced annual Peace Sunday events at various locations throughout the Los Angeles area. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Peace Sunday. So glad that you're here. This is the time to be here. This is the time to proclaim who we are. This is the time to stand up for peace. In the aftermath of 9/11, as America marched towards war with Iraq, Peace Sunday courageously featured Muslim American leader, peace activist, and co-founder of the Muslim Public Affairs Council, Dr. Meher Hattout, and Congresswoman Barbara Lee, the only member of Congress to have voted against the Iraq War.
We really need a peace revolution. Peace is divine, like justice.
Peace is not just the absence of tension, but it is the presence of justice. Presence of justice. Peace and justice go together.
This culture of war, led by the military-industrial complex, catering to the lowest denominator in people, only serving the few on the expense of the many, and just hypnotizing the nation on the drums of war to march is not what the citizens of a democracy should allow to happen.
So, my brothers and sisters, let us take with us the spirit and the ideals and the hope of Peace Sunday displayed today and live each and every day as if it were Peace Sunday, so that the future is created based upon what we stand for today.
Nobody will do that but you, but us. All together, one nation, under God. May God bless you.
May peace prevail on earth.
Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny.
In the summer of 2018, I was working on a documentary project on anti-Semitism that sent me to Charlottesville to film grassroots activists who valiantly stood their ground against the alt-right's menacing and deadly invasion of their city in August the year before. I recently revisited this material and edited this short. Here's an excerpt from my latest work, Charlottesville Reflection.
The item that started it all, Robert E. Lee. A man that lost the war, a man that deserves no recognition, a man that stood for oppressing people of color. There you have it, General Robert E. Lee. I have never known second place to win a prize.
Oppressed so hard they could not stand. Let my people.
McIntyre is a donor from UVA. He had a lot of land around here. It was in like the 1920s. He donated lots of land, and this was one of the lots he donated, and he asked for black people not to be allowed on the space, and they said you can't do that. So he instead put a Confederate monument because he knew that that would deter black people from coming into the space, and donated it with the KKK surrounding it. That's historic. There's historical documents of that. I think even presenting that to people don't know this history. Simple as that. And we have buildings named after these racist people who built Charlottesville. So our whole community has been built on racist ideals. And Thomas Jefferson, this is his town.
Now, after World World War II, they removed all of Hitler's statues. They removed all the imagery of the Holocaust. But here, people of color have to literally look at this every day. Something that stood for the oppressing of our ancestors, Indians, blacks, poor whites. This is what we have to deal with. But I feel like he needs to go as well. In a museum, if you want to tell the story of history, go to a museum and see him. He does not belong here. This is a thriving black community. And you put a statue that stood for the oppressing of black people. That's disrespect. Pure disrespect.
Get him off! Get him off the John!
It was a weekend of street battles and stark displays of racism, exploding into a deadly act.
One of the scariest aspects of what happened in Charlottesville in the summer of 2017 was that you had hundreds of neo-Nazis and white supremacists coming to Charlottesville to protest, exercising that right of free speech, while also being able to exercise their right to bear arms. To me, that was a huge problem. And I saw it with my own eyes. Just guns and guns and more guns. I've never seen so many guns. And then even this past weekend in Charlottesville, when they really kind of almost locked down the downtown area, there was a published list of all the things that you cannot bring into downtown Charlottesville, like skateboards or razors or flagpoles or knives, but you could still bring a gun.
I think the intensity took me by surprise. Actually, it wasn't even who came, it was how the police reacted that really took me by surprise. Just the stand down and watching people fighting.
Why haven't you guys intervened in any of the fighting? The police are refusing to answer my question as to why they haven't intervened in the fighting. Why haven't you guys arrested anyone for the fighting?
And then people fighting racists were labeled as, as criminals also, and there were court trials that people went through that, when you're fighting the same war that our ancestors fought in Germany here, and then being labeled a criminal, to me, was mind-blowing.
I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say.
Lives matter! White lives matter! Homecoming, this is our town now!
Blood and soil. Jews will not replace us. Jews will not erase us. White power. They were calling the N-word. It was so much that was used that day. It was so much violence that went on that day. It was just so much to really intake.
We could very clearly see it on the ground, what was going on, but the fact that nobody else understood that people came to our city to attack us.
We are on 4th Street. This is where the car basically plowed all the BLM members that were walking and protesting. And so
How crowded was it here?
He got to about here and backed up and then came full force down this street. And there were cars that were parked at the stop sign to go through. And those cars kind of smashed one another due to impacts. And this is where Heather Heyer died. This is 4th Street.
I don't think people understood why they came and what they were doing, and it worked. They were inducing fear.
This is where people just come and write like feelings, like no time for hate, spread love. Yes, someone lost their life that day. And I don't want to take anything away from Heather because she was out here definitely fighting for Black Lives Mattering. So she did believe that Black Lives Matter. However, we cannot move away from what really was the issues happening in Charlottesville that led up to August the 12th. And so while we sometimes hear the story fade away and go towards Heather Heyer, that wasn't the nature of the fight. 2 officers lost their life, but 26 people were also injured that we never hear about. So we just need people that when they tell the story, that we're not continuing on white supremacy and giving whitewash history.
I'm Rachel Schmelkin, and I'm one of the rabbis at Congregation Beth Israel in Charlottesville, Virginia. Our community and the African American community knew that we had to come together in order to stand up to this hate, and that we really had a lot of power when we come together. You know, I'm thinking about Black friends of mine, Black clergy colleagues, who offered to stand around the synagogue and protect us on August 12th. Over the past year, especially with high school students, we did a lot of debriefing what happened here, learning about anti-Semitism, talking about anti-Semitism and how to combat it. But I actually think that our congregation in particular has been much more focused on fighting racism and xenophobia than necessarily on specifically fighting anti-Semitism. And I think that because of the way that we've really learned about how anti-Semitism animates white supremacy and how anti-Semitism and racism are very much connected in their minds, that when you're fighting, you can't fight anti-Semitism without fighting racism, and you can't fight racism without fighting anti-Semitism.
In the days after what happened in Charlottesville, I think this is what happens when you have extremist, violent, terroristic elements that always had previously been at the margins, beyond the pale. They were invited into the mainstream of a modern political party. There was a kind of unholy alliance that was struck between this presidential campaign that wanted to use nationalism, white nationalism, for political benefit to win the presidency. So when you do that, no surprise then that they feel legitimated to come onto the mainstream stage, and that's how they described what was going to happen in Charlottesville. That was unite the right.
I think here in Charlottesville that we have a wonderful team and a blended team of people that work together in solidarity to fight these issues. I think that the Black community and the Jewish community here do believe in the fight. I know several Jewish people from Charlottesville that are definitely all about change and all about the fight for equality.
What happened here and what has happened since in Charlottesville is that people have shown up and confronted white supremacists and neo-Nazis wherever they show up. And Charlottesville has become a very miserable and uncomfortable place to be a neo-Nazi or a white supremacist. We have sent a clear message that they are not welcome here, and that they will not be able to just sneak by and hang out in Charlottesville.
You know, watching people come together to fight this was powerful, but it's not enough. It still has to be done on higher up levels. And for me, I had to realize that it was my white comfort to be able to choose when and where I could make a stand. And I had to realize that's not a choice for everybody.
I just don't think America is sorry for what it did to people of color. I don't think it's sorry for what it did to the Indians. I don't think it's sorry for the oppression that it caused to so many individuals. And symbols like this should make anybody feel some type of way when you know the nature of the why it happened, or the nature of why it's here, and the nature of who it's hurting. We can't put equality or say that we stand for equality and put equality in the same view of an image like Robert E. Lee.
It's a sad moment when a movement born out of commitment to end systemic racism and police brutality has come to be vilified as violent, destructive, and unlawful, when the overwhelming majority of the Black Lives Matter marches have been peaceful and nonviolent. Civil rights icon and Martin Luther King mentor, the Reverend James Lawson, and Black Lives Matter Los Angeles co-founder, Dr. Melina Abdullah, sat down with us recently to discuss the status of the streets and the struggle.
History looks back. Well, it's looking back now, but it mostly identifies Charlottesville as a consequence of a very violent society, of violence that has 300 or 400 years of practice and community life. So the mistreatment of Indian, the decimation, the hanging of women as witches, these things we have never repudiated, and we have never sought, therefore, to put in place a different way of living.
Black Lives Matter knows that the core of Black Lives Matter is really a spiritual movement, right? That the struggle for justice for our people is a sacred duty, and much of the work is grounded in spiritual practice. We cannot expect to transform the world without the presence of the Creator, without calling on our mightiest warrior ancestors to help us align with the struggle for Black freedom that goes back generations.
Hold that name in your mind, and we're all gonna say the name of our own ancestors together. 1, 2, 3. Ashe.
When we come out, oftentimes we are standing on the spilled blood of our people. And to think that the work doesn't have a spiritual component is to be hugely naive. So we always ground ourselves with the pouring of libation. We engage in prayer, and we do a lot of affirmation work. Remembering that this is a long and sometimes very difficult and challenging struggle, but our victory is ensured as long as we're committed to that struggle. White supremacist terrorism is not the group of folks we're trying to appeal to. So anyone who is casting the calling for the valuation of Black life as an evil thing is problematic themselves. And so, you know, that's other people's work to try to convert or transform those folks. That's not the group that we're engaging in. And so, you know, we believe in, when we say Black Lives Matter, it's a rallying cry specifically to Black folks, but also to non-Black folks who view themselves as allies or accomplices in the struggle for Black freedom.
We ain't playing. This system of policing has got to go. You can't call on Mama Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth and David Walker and all of these people and then say we gonna hold on to a remnant of the system that they gave their lives to abolish. Hell no. We are going to reimagine and build new systems of community safety.
Peace Sunday's spiritual call to action to create a peaceful, equitable, and sustainable future for all could not come at a more crucial moment. This is critical. Let us carry the dream as we care for the sick in our families and communities. Let us carry the dream as we work for racial and economic justice. Let us carry the dream as we confront the climate crisis and work for a clean environment and a sustainable future for our children and our children's children. Let us carry the dream as we vote in this year's historic election. Let us make every day a Peace Sunday and a day to work for a better world for all humanity. Thank you so very much.
In honor of the United Nations 75th anniversary, as well as Unity and Diversity World Council's 55th anniversary, we are hereby putting forth a call to action for all of us to make every Sunday Peace Sundays beginning January 2021. We are encouraging our global family to hold peace-building events in your local areas and or online, empowering us to collectively create a more peaceful, equitable, and sustainable world with a much brighter future for all. We will be producing a broadcast series called Sacred Activism Peace Sundays. These broadcasts will address the most critical issues of our time and also highlight registered peace events happening worldwide. The third Sundays will feature a specific story from the We Carry the Dream documentary film, and the main areas of focus for other Sundays are spiritualization, denuclearization, decolonization, honoring and protecting the sacred, and environmental stewardship. For more information and to register your peace events, please visit us at peacesundays.org.
Kyo